Ni hao Shanghai. Good morning, Shanghai. It's very exciting for me to be here. It's the biggest crowd I've ever spoken for, so I'm obviously a little bit nervous, but also very excited to be here. So let's see, what do we have? LangWhatNot. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So how did I end up here? You might be wondering, what is this Belgian guy doing here? Actually, it all started in Beijing earlier this year in August, where I met one of the organizing team, Jesse, and we started chatting about how nice it was to be in Beijing and meeting each other and exchanging thoughts, and that's where kind of the idea grew to come back to China and maybe share some things about what I've been doing in the space of Google Cloud. So, little background story. So what about me? I'm Matthias. I'm a Google developer expert. I'm originally from Belgium, but I'm living in Singapore now, and I'm working for a company called Do It that is basically helping clients to get the most out of their cloud. But enough about me, more about GenAI, right? Because that's what everybody's talking about nowadays. And I want to share a bit about my journey with GenAI. It started, I think, a year ago, when my manager asked me to look into it. What is it? Can you learn a bit about it so we can maybe help our clients better on GenAI, right? And up until that point, my exposure was very limited. This picture was taken on a trip with my friend in Penang, where he's basically very much into photography, but he's also really liking to play around with AI and technology. And the next thing he did with this, I think, is a pretty good picture. The next thing he did was the following. And that was my first exposure to GenAI. And obviously, you might have guessed I was a bit skeptical. Like, is this the best we can do? Is this what all the buzz is about, right? Is generating funny pictures of your best friend? But I quickly learned that it was not the only thing. And we're now 1 year later. This is my third talk I'm doing on GenAI, and I learned it can be quite useful. It's actually a nice tool to do stuff with. But you're probably wondering, what is this talk about right now, right? It's not only about funny pictures and me playing around with GenAI, but I actually wanted to solve a problem for myself. So before we take off to the technical stuff, one more story time. And the story starts actually in Beijing again. After Beijing, I took a trip to Okinawa in Japan. And since scuba diving is a hobby very close to my heart, I wanted to do some scuba diving. But I wanted to also give something back on my trip to the country. So I decided to do marine conservation there. And this journey was a little bit of a bumpy one, because looking into how to do marine conservation in a country where you don't speak the language is not always the easiest thing. So I spent a lot of time researching on internet. I spent a lot of time messaging people. And at the end of the day, I was like, why not write up this experience and share it with the internet? So if anybody else wants to do it in the future, it's at least a lot easier for them, right? So that's what I did. And it kind of coincided with a dream I had for, I think, about 10 years. I'm very good at procrastination. It took 10 years for me to start my own website. So finally did that as well. So when I turned 30, actually one of my friends bought me the domain name. So he put some pressure on me by putting, I think, is quite an interesting content on there initially. So a funny picture from, I think, 20 years ago, some XOXO, and yeah, nothing very serious. So I'm happy to say that by now it looks, I guess, a little bit more professional. And I have the blog post that I was referring to on there. It's not much, but it's honest work, I would say. So this is what we're going to talk about mainly today, is the blog post. And more specifically about caption generation for images inside the blog post. So if you would go to the website and you would read through the content, you hopefully see I put some effort in writing up what my experience was and what I did there. But you might also notice that towards the end I got a little bit lazy with the captions. of the images. So you can see there's like OIST projects twice and then OIST campus, and there's many other pictures that are just captioned with the same thing. And I thought to myself, like, okay, I realized I'm being lazy here. Why don't I find some help, or I make some help for myself? And that's where the idea for GenAI agent came in. So that's the topic of the talk today. I called it LangWhatNot because we're going to be talking about different language frameworks, and you might know there's a few out there that start with Lang. So yeah, this is the outline. We're going to talk what the talk is about. We're going to cover how I solve my problems with a little demo. Then we'll dive into what the solution looks like under the hood. And then I'll do some recap of what I want you guys to take away and maybe can apply in your own work. And then at the end, we should have some time for a few questions, hopefully, as well. So first, the blog post. This is what the repository looks like. I used 11T as a framework that basically allows you to make templates and then fill them in with content using Markdown. So we have 11T config there. We have the source folder with everything that we need. And the post is just a Markdown file with the content. This is what it kind of looks like. It looks a bit boring. I think it looks a little bit better on the website. And yeah, this is the picture. So the folder with the picture, and this is the picture we wanted to generate a caption for specifically. So how did we solve the problems? Let's take a look. I was inspired in this journey by a few resources that I found online, and I want to highlight two of them. The first one is a talk by Andrew Ng. I think he was speaking at the Sequoia kind of get-together meetup. I highly recommend this talk. He basically goes on to talk about what are the next things in the GenAI ecosystem, and specifically about agentic reasoning. And then the second resource I was kind of inspired by was one from BEAR, the Berkeley Artificial Intelligence Research. And they talk about how the ecosystem is shifting a bit from who has the best model. Like, you know, there's a competition going around, which is still good because the models will improve. But it's not only about the model anymore. There's a tool set around the model that help you make the models a bit more useful and make them into an actual application, right? So, demo time.
So I'm just going to run the main.py file, and we'll be using this image as the one we want to generate the caption for, as you can see right here. So there's a few things that are happening already. So we're basically starting the caption generation script. The blog context is about 30,000 characters long, so that's this whole thing. And we're starting off by summarizing the blog, which summarizes it to 1,706 characters, which is quite a good reduction. Yeah, so here's the summaries, split out into debug logs, and that took around 8 seconds, which is pretty quick. Next up, we encode the image, and then we describe the image, which takes about 1,000 characters, and yeah, it basically says the image shows a hand holding a small piece of coral attached to a concrete block with a metal wire, which I think is quite accurate. Wrong picture, yeah, this one. And the image perfectly illustrates the blog post focused on marine conservation efforts in Okinawa, which is kind of the context that I gave it as well. And that took also about 8 seconds, which is brilliant. So next up, we are going into the generation of the captions, and we see here the 5 captions that were generated, and they basically get fed back to me, the human, to maybe give my opinion. So let's see, witnessing the bird of coral reef, planting a seedling in Okinawa, symbol of hope for marine conservation. Tiny coral, big impact, learning about reef restoration and contributing to Okinawa's underwater world. That was number 4. Yeah, I think these are pretty good, but maybe we can make them a little bit shorter, right? A little shorter, a little snappier, please. Cool. So that was really, really quick. Pretty much half a second. So we have some shorter captions. I like it. Planting Matthias, a small pearl, a big step for Okinawa's reef. They're not really planting me right, so that's not a great one. From ceiling to reef, my hands-on contribution to marine conservation. I like that one. Okay, number 2 is a good chance for me. But maybe I think I want to make it a little bit more fun. Maybe introduce some smileys. So make it more funny and add some smileys, please. From seedling to reef, I'm officially a coral planter. I'm feeling pretty awesome about it. That's not really funny, but okay. Witnessing hope bloom, planting a coral seedling in Okinawa's vibrant water. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, planting Matthias is a little coral might be small, but it's a big. Okay, more funny, please. I want more funny. Planting coral seedling is serious business, but I'm pretty sure Matthias is judging my dance moves underwater. Yeah, I like that one. Okay, number 2 it is. So now we went to the, we choose number 2, and we went to the save caption. And we should be able to see, yeah, it popped up right here next to the actual image, and planting coral seedling is serious business, but I'm pretty sure Matthias is judging my dance moves. There we go, awesome.
Cool. So that was the demo. I was planning to do a live demo, but due to technical considerations, we decided to go with the video. But I think you got the gist. I hope it was not too small for you to see the output and stuff. Anyway, what does the solution look like under the hood? I think you're all interested in what you just saw, a little bit more context on what is going on there, right? So the first component of the solution I want to introduce is called LangGraph. And basically LangGraph allows you to create workflows. And workflows, you can think of them as basically a graph. So it's a state graph which has nodes and edges. And the nodes inside carry out some task while the edge kind of controls where all your flow of the program can go. And in my particular example, I had about six nodes that do different things. So we started with a summarize step, and in the summarize step, we basically condensed the blog post from, I think it was about 30,000 characters to 1,500, which was necessary. Because I initially wanted to use Gemma for this, but the context window of Gemma is 8,192 tokens, while the one of Gemini, as Eric pointed out, is 2 million. So Gemini can take a lot more information in and then give us something back, while Gemma is a little bit smaller, so we have to. I worked around it by summarizing the blog post first. Next up, I decided to describe the image, so that basically. The image that you saw, we give it to Gemini and we ask it, okay, what do you see? That's the describe image step. And with all of this output, so the summary of the blog post and the description of the image, we ask Gemma, create us a caption for this image, please. This is using Gemma 2 9 billion, so it's not the biggest model, but the mid-sized one. So that's the third step, and then we have the fourth step is where you saw there is kind of a breakpoint in the application. So here we allow the human, in this case me, I was hoping it to be one of you, to give some feedback to the output. So I asked for some more smileys, I think, maybe make the captions a little bit shorter. So we give that context back to the generation step, and we regenerate the captions to end up hopefully with something we like. And depending on the input at that point, I think it was submit or accept caption or something, we also go to the right end of the flow, and we actually save the caption to disk. So pretty easy. I think most of you are familiar. I don't want to get too deep into graph theory, but that's what a workflow is like. Definition of a workflow, I pasted some code, I left some out as well, but it should be pretty easy. you just call state graph, and then you start adding your nodes. So that's the first two. You have summarize block, describe image, the nodes, and you add some edges, as well as the conditional edge, depending on what route you want to take, depending on the output of the previous node. And then you set the entry point, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty easy. A node definition, so that's one of the little bullets you saw. This one will include some code that you want to be executed as part of that step. In my case, for the refined caption one, I defined the prompt template, then I gave some input variables to the prompt template, and then I defined the chain, which we'll talk about later. And then we invoke the chain with some input again, and we get a parsed output, in this case, refined captions for the blog post. Cool. Another thing that LangGraph gives you is state and memory saver. So what does this do for you is it helps you with persistence by storing and retrieving the state of conversations across multiple interactions. So let's say if I wanted to make this into something that I put on the website, and I, for example, save a cookie for one of you, and 1 month later you would come back to the same conversation, I would just retrieve the state and the conversation would kind of flow from there again. So it is not like a stateless system, it becomes a stateful system. So yeah, functionality, it acts as an in-memory key value store for graph states, and it kind of enables you, enables agents to maintain context within a single conversation thread. So definition is super easy. Same for the state. So in my case for the state, I used the image pad, which is kind of the input. I keep track of the block context as well as the block context summary. So that is the one that Gemini gives us back. I have an image description, the caption proposals, so it's basically the output, the chosen caption, and then any feedback that I have given as a human. So pretty simple as well. And then the main star of the show, Gemini. So in this demo, it's kind of the main brains and the workhorse. It's used for the summarization, so we condense the blog post, and we also use its multimodality capability. So it can basically see the image and then give some useful description of it. But it can do much more. It can look at video. You can throw a video at it, and I've seen people that are using it to ask a video questions or basically try to find a certain point in the video where they want to pick up when they were watching last time. It can hear as well, so you can send audio. It can help you code. It has the massive 2 million context window, which I think is still industry leading. And it's close to my heart, it's also thoroughly integrated with Google Cloud. So if you want to deploy something on Vertex AI and you want it to interact with the rest of the Google Cloud ecosystem, it's really, really, really useful for you. Then Gemma 2, even closer to my heart, and I like it because it's like the cool little brother of Gemini. It's now the second iteration already that Google has introduced. It's the first iteration I think was February 2024, and the second iteration was released in June 2024. And they gave us a whole technical write-up that I recommend people to have a look at. The one on the right, if you Google that, I'm quite sure you will find it. And it's open, so I'm quite passionate about open source things. So the weights and the license are free for everybody to look at. The dataset and the code are not open, but maybe sometime in the future as well. So you can basically take it and you can use it for your own fine-tuning use cases or maybe some research you want to do. And there's 3 different flavors depending on the use case you have. Maybe you have kind of need for a faster model, so you probably go with the smaller one, the 2 billion one. I went with the 9 billion one, which is kind of a nice midway. And then you have the 27 billion one, which is the most capable one of the 3. Cool. Another component I used in the demo is LangChain. This one enables you to do a sequence of calls and interactions between components, and they process basically your usual textual data. And the usual suspects are the prompts, so the input text, maybe formatting, some prompt templating you might want to do. obviously your LLM. It's kind of nice that LangChain allows you to abstract away what LLM you're calling. So if you want to try something with a different LLM, it's really easy. This is what also enabled me to that easily switch from Gemma to Gemini when I realized the context window was not enough for my initial summary. And then maybe some tools. If you have a RAG, you might want to introduce a retriever, maybe some formatters, which we will talk about later. So that's what LangChain gives you. And they have something called LCL, LangChain Expression Language, which makes it very easy for you to write in a quite elegant way these chains. So I have the prompt, I pipe it into Gemma, and then I pipe it into a parser. Cool. It gives you structured output as well. So sometimes you want the output of your model not to be human readable only, but you want to make me talk to a machine. This is where structured input becomes very useful. So some LLMs have it internally this capability internally. So Gemini can output structured output by itself, but some LLMs kind of need help. So in this case, I use it for Gemma. It's giving me back a string JSON, but then I parse it actually into a structured output or a parser that gives me back a list of captions. So it's basically a list of strings, as you can see here at the bottom. Structure output definition is also quite simple. We have a pydantic schema, then we create a pydantic output parser with that schema, and then we basically just make it part of our whole chain. It's as easy as that. And then lastly, the LangSmith. So we had LangGraph, LangChain, and now LangSmith. LangSmith is kind of the one that helps you put things in production. So once you've passed the POC stage, you're quite happy with everything, you might want to consider LangSmith if you want to do debugging or some evaluation of your application. And it's as easy as just adding some environmental variables, and there you go. So I have a little demo of that as well.
Hey everyone, so we're looking at LangSmith here. Let me make it a bit bigger. So basically, these are all the traces we've sent from our application to the LangSmith backend, and it will capture things like the input, the output, maybe an error, start time, latency, and then any evaluation things you want to do. But very interestingly, also the number of tokens. So if you want to calculate costs, that's a good one. Yes. So, oops, I lost it there. So we see here summarized blog. We see the chat Verdix AI LLM calls. We see chat blog which calls Gemma to 9 billion. And if you click one of these, you will see it in the context of the whole flow as well, which is quite nice. So we start with the start, summarize blog, describe images, generate captions, etc., etc. Of which have some different subchains. So there's a chain, it has the prompt template, it has the LLM call. One that I quite like and want to show you is the refined captions as well. So here we have the chain, which has the prompt template and the Gemma call. But then we push the Gemma output through the output parser to get this structured output basically. So this is what Gemma has given us back, the different captions, which is just a JSON string. But then the pydantic output parser gives us actually some machine readable JSON that the rest of the code can work with downstream.
Cool. That video was taken after a 3-hour night, so I might look a bit tired there. Cool. So I have about 5 minutes left, so I'll go a bit quicker on this part because I want to give some time for questions as well. So what do I want you guys to remember from this, and maybe some tips and tricks? So first of all, Gemma. Gemma 2 is a smaller open source model. It's good if you want to experiment yourself, maybe with fine-tuning or some of your research. And I highly recommend also you can run it locally. So if you want to do it for free, it's possible. You can download Gemma, you can run it with Olama on your laptop the most of the laptops, I guess, and just interact with it there, which is, I think, is really cool. If you go beyond that, just deploy it to Vertex AI, and it will integrate with the rest of Google Cloud. Gemini, it's Google most powerful, and I received an email yesterday. It's actually on the #1 spot in the LLM arena again. So yay, Gemini. It's multimodal by nature. I think that's really cool. It has 2 million context windows. So yeah, throw everything you got. And I think they're thinking of making it a 10 million context window at some point as well. And yeah, it can be used for multimedia and more complicated tasks. LangChain, use it for prompt formatting, chain composition, LLM abstraction, which I think is useful, and any tool calling you might want to do, for example, the output parser. And then we have LangGraph and LangSmith. LangGraph is for the whole workflow definition, so you get some more control over what your application is going to do if you don't want your LLM to decide everything. It's inspired on Apache Beam. I found it in the docs. I was quite happy to see that because I'm a supporter of Apache Beam, and I got some swag for people that have questions, actually. And it allows you to incorporate and externalize state. And then LangSmith, you throw it in there once you are happy and you want to do some observability and evaluation of your application. Cool, so time for questions. I think I have 4 minutes, maybe 2 questions. And these are my details in case you want to reach out afterwards. So anybody who has a question, raise your hand and you will get one of these.
Matthias 他带了一些小礼品，然后这个礼品跟着他走过了比利时，走过了英国，然后现在来到了上海。然后大家有提问的吗 ？OK， 这位。
Hello, Matthias.
Hello.
Hello. Very appreciate your great presentation. Then I found Do It also have a coin. Are you the same company in Singapore?
Do it? Like do?
Coin. Yeah.
Like a crypto?
Yes.
No.
We're a different company.
We don't have a coin. We are a consultancy basically. So we help any company that is on cloud already with their journey on the cloud. But we don't do any. Well, we help crypto companies. We have CoinGecko as a client, I think, but we don't have our own coin. No. It's Do IT, like Do IT.
Do IT.
Yeah.
Not Do It. Okay.
Well, we say Do It, but I'm not sure how you spell it.
Okay.
It's like literally just do it from Nike. Do it.
Do It. Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Oh, you already got it. Perfect. I think there's someone over.
你好，我的问题是华为公司是不是已经停用了安卓系统？然后对谷歌会不会有什么安卓系统影响有什么影响？
He has a question that Huawei has already stopped using the Android system. So what is the impact on the Google ecosystem?
That's probably a very interesting question, but I'm not an Android GDE. Yeah. On the top of my head, I think just some developer will shift towards, definitely in the China market, will shift towards Huawei, but I'm not sure what that global impact would be, unfortunately.
是这样的，他本身不是一个安卓的开发者，所以他本身没有办法回答这个问题。他主要还是谷歌云的开发者。
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Oh, here.
Good morning, Matthias. My question is, your PPT is perfect, but
But the captions are not great.
Could you please introduce what's the Google, the prosperity, and autonomous driving in the future? It's combination, your system, because it's very important for us. Because it's just a tool, but tool is not an application. The deep application for your system is combination with your For example, robotics and autonomous and so on. Could you please make a briefly introduction for the Chinese audience? Thank you very much.
No worries. So you're asking more about where I think things will go in the future, like a future perspective on agents, or?
My question is your cloud, how to combine your cloud with the autonomous system in Chinese place, especially. So I don't know, in the future, the Google. 我的问题是，就是自动驾驶这一块儿，怎么跟它的云结合在一块儿？
So how to combine the cloud with the automated driving the capability?
Self-driving.
Okay, I think there will be a model question, right? So, because in autonomous driving, I think there will be some prediction of what is going to happen in the environment around you. So the more powerful the models get, which requires a lot of hardware to train and to serve, I think the more better these systems will do in general. So I think at the moment, these models are not running. I'm not an autonomous driving engineer, but
I see.
I'm not sure if they
Because they use the very professional words. Sorry.
I think they would be, maybe, yeah, cloud can be serve as a backend for any of the models that you want to use in such a scenario, I think.
Okay. Not too bad. Thank you.
Any other questions? 后面。
你好，就是我想问一下，我们这个 AI 如果和CNC 数控系统结合的话，有没有什么应用场景 ？CNC 数控系统。
He asked if he wants to combine the, I don't know what a CNC is. CNC is the data control system, maybe? And if it combined the CNC, the control system, with AI, so is there any scenario or possibilities?
I don't know about the CNC. I've never heard of CNC. It's like.
Okay, so this question is more like a
So
hardware combined. So.
Maybe you can communicate like in person after the speech. Okay. Okay.
The CNC means just like a phonic, you know, phonic robotics. Robotics just like the brain software, the how to control the machine to use your system.
So like the physical.
Just like the manufacturing, the fabricate, the product, the metal, sheet metal working, just like this. But it's very professional.
We can take some of the questions offline. I think it's. I will be around.
先给这一位吧。我们最后2个问题啊，问题有点多，但是就是有一点太专业了。
Hello, thank you. I'm Zhe Jun from Fujian Alumni Association. So I've been a developer for more than 20 years. The biggest challenge I face is that your presentation is very impressive, but it sounds like domain-specific knowledge to me. And the biggest problem we face is that after we do a project, then after a while, after a year or two, the project is not going to compile anymore. So is there any guarantee on the API stability and compatibility thing? Thank you.
I'm not the owner of these APIs, so I probably cannot make any hard promises on that. But I think all the companies like LangChain and Google that are involved in this demo are probably incentivized to keep the developer experience as good as possible. So I'm quite confident a lot of these APIs won't go away. they might change shape and form, of course, because they have to keep up with. It's a fast changing landscape. The whole LLM thing. I think Gemma 2 being released 4 months only after Gemma 1, it kind of is a testament to this being, it's a fast changing environment.
So it's a demonstration of what we can do right now. It's going to evolve, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think in this presentation in 1 year is probably not going to be super relevant anymore. Like there will be better things.
Thank you.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
剩下这些没有被点到的同学，可以在会后跟 Matthias 私下交流，好吧？因为我们确实时间有点赶。
Okay, thank you, Marshall. My question is, you just show with the ecosystem in Google Cloud. My question is that, do you have a plan to extend the ecosystem to multi-cloud? Maybe like Microsoft Azure or AWS?
Yeah, it's a good question. So this is also LangChain and LangGraph and LangSmith are cloud agnostic. So the specific Google things in this presentation are Gemma and Gemini. So these you would only be able to get on Google, as far as I know. But LangChain, if you, let's say, the abstraction I was talking about of the LLM in LangChain, you could plug in another model if that's what you want to do. Same thing for a RAG, you will be able to, so retrieval augmented generation, right? You will be able to plug in a database from another, even your local system. You can run a Redis locally, you can run Gemma locally, and then you can build your own system. So that then you don't even need the cloud. And I think this is very useful for development purposes. And that's what I do personally as well, if I'm trying out with these tools.
That means how to deploy it? Maybe based on Docker or other container?
So for some of the models that are as a service, so Gemini, I think, is the best example. You don't need to deploy, so the API is there. Other ones, I think there will be providers. So I know Google has the Model Garden, and they help you basically with one click deploy the whole thing on Vertex AI. I think under the hood it runs containers. I've not been that deep in Vertex AI myself, but I think under the hood it's running maybe a Hugging Face serving container or Google's homegrown containers for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matthias. 会后的话，because we have so many questions, so I guess they will find you after the speech. Okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.